Hey everybody, welcome back to another video on the author, filmer, and entertainment space. I think that's what it's called. I may just have to rename it if it's not. Anyway, I'll keep the name. The thing is, I've been away for a while. It's been a brutal, brutal sickness and lung infections and breathing issues. COPD does that. I've just been on a plethora of medications, but nothing to make me any worse in the head than what I already am. Uh, so I kind of racked my brain as to what to do because I did celebrity deaths and all that on my other channel. It's just been a horrific, horrific month. Last 2 months actually. We lost Dustin Diamond and countless others, and it's been a really, really sad time. Uh, but you know, things happen for a reason, and it's a circle of life, you know. Let's see here. Um, if you don't check out my main YouTube channel, you cannot know all the nitty gritty on things. Just look up my name, Clint Lutteringer. Yeah, Lutteringer. Both that and this channel are run by myself. There's also podcasts. We'll get into that here in a little bit, though. Pages on Facebook where you can go and follow my work, etc., etc. So, there's been a lot going on in the news in general, like Sharon Osbourne leaving the talk and all that. So, this huge probe that was done into her. So she left. And I don't know. Drop your opinion of that in the comments. I don't quite know. The payout was up to 10 million for her leaving the talk, and really, I just kind of uh, don't really know. Uh, Something just fell on the floor. Made a little dribble or something, sounded like a golf ball. But yeah, she did leave the talk into the racism probe, and it's paid up to 10 mil. That's how much it was worth. And speaking of the royal family type thing, Kristen Stewart was actually spotted with the channeling the iconic Princess Diana look. That's on eonline.com. Go check it out. There's been a lot of things going on with the royal family and everything else. And I watched a little bit of the Prince Harry interview, and it's pretty, you know, pretty, pretty sad. Kristen Stewart is actually set to play Princess Diana in Spencer. There's a photo of her on there. And of course, they have the celebrity babies of 2021, as well as Emma Stone's best looks and Thomas Rhett's cutest father moments. I don't really follow the celebrities and stuff, but it is, what it is, and they follow more things like the Kardashians and reality TV. And Women's History Month, as well as on there, as well as the latest on the latest TV, um, such as the Obi-Wan Kenobi cast. It's going to be a series, and it'll make you excited about the series, it says. And, it's just a really interesting thing. I don't really go to this website much. I'm more for page 6 and all that, where I get the celebrity obits. And I don't know why I'm so morbid. Might just be my nature. One thing that I did notice today, Chuck Norris, I saw something on Facebook, a thread about what are the facts you know about Chuck Norris, best facts. So I actually Googled Chuck Norris. I did. And after that, my computer split in half. But anyway, I was kind of curious about the Chuck Norris jokes. They're out there, and there's 101 greatest Chuck Norris jokes. Um, And they're really, really funny. I always love a good Chuck Norris joke, but don't tell Chuck Norris. So anyway, no, the thing is, he has a daughter, right? Dinah, or Dina, Dinah. I'm just gonna say Dinah. I don't know. But it's really, I don't know. It's just interesting. Now, Dinah is probably um, my newest crush. Um, she was born slightly before my time, but she is one gorgeous girl, let me tell you. Woman, really. And, there was controversy surrounding the life of Chuck Norris over that particular birth, um, which I'm not here to shame the name of Chuck Norris. So I'll just leave it at that. You can go Google it. I'm sure it's an embarrassing thing for him. And so, but I'm not going to do it. So anyway, we have a lot to cover today. As you know, entertainment is movies as well as music. So we're going to cover the 8 great movies with Rotten Tomatoes scores that are not exactly accurate. And then the 50 greatest guitarists of all time. And what we're going to do, and that's from Louder. The Louder staff, they wrote that. And of course, these are all coming out of the eonline.com. So anyway, the 8 great movies with Rotten Tomatoes scores, some people would just be harsh and cruel. So anyway, there's 8 movies they outlined. I'm sure there's probably more they're inaccurately rated on Rotten Tomatoes. First on the list we have Armageddon with Bruce Willis. And it came out July the 1st of 98. That's the last century. Directed by Michael Bay. And there's a Rotten Tomatoes score of 38%. And, of course, this is from edition.thrillist.com. But it was a patriotic film. And you may have your own opinion about this. But it's a great movie. It's a very iconic movie as well. Bruce Willis is, of course, a brilliant, brilliant actor. It's quoted as saying, why it's better than The Ring. Sometimes it's hard to feel truly patriotic these days. With pretty much everything going on. And this guy wrote that watching Armageddon makes him want to run around outside waving the biggest, brightest Old Glory he can find. And it's a balls to the wall, bizarre movie about a motley crew of homegrown American blue-collar heroes who, with days of training, take a rocket into space, embarking on a meteor that's about to crash the Earth and bring humanity to extinction. And they have to drill a hole into it and blow it up with a bomb. Which sounds pretty cool for the action buffs, And, it's just a great movie, it sounds. I've never seen it, but I probably will. Michael Bay has also done other things. The Transformer. If you can rag on the Transformer series all you like. Michael Bay is a really gifted, beautiful filmmaker, and the soaring shots of spacecrafts, heroic close-ups of Ben Affleck, a really fascinating, wholly inaccurate description of what the surface of a space rocket might look like. It's emotional, it's exciting. Steve Buscemi's character's entire personality is horny. So, Steve Buscemi, also quite the amazing actor as well. He's a very, very good guy. I like him. He's a great guy. He was on SNL maybe once or twice. Next, we have Johnny Mnemonic, which I've also never seen. The Future's Most Wanted Fugitive. Sounds kind of fun. Sounds like something I would check out, and I don't really do these movies. This was released May the 26th of 1995. Directed by Robert Longo. With a rating of 13%. I'm sorry, I have some in my teeth. Happened last video too. So, Johnny Mnemonic, right? So, why it's better than the rating? You might think 1999 was the first time Keanu Reeves entered the Matrix. He actually conquered the digital world 4 years earlier. And it's far from his best performance. But 13% is just mean. They have so much bizarre stuff, and there's many fascinating concepts and visions of the future. Because that maybe is a little bit ahead of its time, you know. But in the future, Johnny acts as a courier to paid to upload information into his brain that's too sensitive to transport through the internet. Then, because of doing this sensitive job, he finds himself hunted by the Yakuza while his brain slowly boils with a strain of massive data upload. Sounds kind of like my last computer that crashed. Too much. And this Chromebook's out the door as well. Pretty quick. There were weird digital effects, a talking cyborg dolphin. And the critics didn't like this one, regardless of the fact that Ice-T plays a renegade anti-establishment hacker with giant goggles and cool face tattoos. This actually pioneered a futuristic neon-lit hacker aesthetic that dominated the 90s. So it's quite the iconic film. Event Horizon, Infinite Space, Infinite Terror, Event Horizon, right? So let's see what this one's about. August 15th of 97, Paul W.S. Anderson was the director. The rating is 27%. It's sad, really. Seems kind of cool for the sci-fi people. I'm so uncomfortable the way I'm sitting right now. It's horrible. Why it's better than the rating. So if there's a movie on this list that's genuinely great, not just good but great, despite its Rotten Tomatoes rating, it's this one. A claustrophobic, chilling spaceship horror with a world-class deranged performance by Sam Neill. So, Event Horizon deserves a spot in the pantheon of great sci-fi movies, especially those that feature satanic rituals, black holes, or portals to other dimensions, and people gouging out their eyes. Wow. That sounds pretty cool. Why the low rating? I don't know, but that's pretty cool. They've got out a lot worse since, and that's probably received higher ratings. You know. So in the far future, the crew of Lewis and Clark are dispatched on a rescue mission to recover the experimental spaceship Event Horizon after receiving a distress call. But when they get there, they find out some calls are much better left unanswered. Not since Poseidon has Samuel been so creepy, and outer space has never seemed so eldritch. ELDRITCH. That's about my dip. Sorry if you're grossed out. Anyway, we all gotta keep ourselves stable somehow. Next is The Keep. A Michael Mann film. Yes. Never heard of this guy. The cover looked very 80s. Indeed, December 16th of 1983, this one dropped. The director is Michael Mann. They gave it a 40% rating, which isn't really half bad. But, yeah, it's definitely 80. The screenshot is definitely old style. I love the 80s, by the way. The 80s movies. The 90s movies. I like that look they have to the film, the pictures. So why it's better than its rating, and this came out when I was like 2 years old, I think. And I was born in '81. So remember when Scott Glenn was hilariously buff and Ian McKellen didn't look like Gandalf all the time? No, well, it sounds like you never saw The Keep, Michael Mann's out-of-this-world cult horror movie about a group of Nazi soldiers who awaken an incident. An ancient power imprisoned inside a massive fortress deep inside the Carpathian Mountains. And Ian McKellen, he's been around the way quite a lot. I don't know who Scott Glenn is. Don't shoot me. And, you know, it looks really, really cool. Ian McKellen, very, very young. Really hasn't changed that much, in my opinion. There's a lot in here about humanity driven to extremes, our desire and skill at committing evil, and what you give up to save who you love. What's great about this movie are the incredible underground sets and the haunting Tangerine Dream soundtrack. Tangerine Dream. I remember a song called Tangerine Speedo by a Cavalier or something. It was a great song. One of those really feel good songs like you hear at a party. So, John Carter. It's a Disney film, and of course, I'm not too much into Disney. It's just not my cup of tea. Shock, right? I just never could get with it. This was released, fast forward to 2012, March 9th, as a matter of fact, 2012. Directed by Andrew Stanton and Mark Atkins. The Rotten Tomatoes rating is 52%, which doesn't seem half bad. And of course, I'm not into Disney, so it's possible that I would give it lower, obviously. I won't see this movie probably, because I'm just not into Disney. And so, if only they had been kinder to Disney's early 2010s risk, maybe we wouldn't have a giant studio juggernaut inflicting 3 to 4 superhero movies upon us every year. So John Carter could have saved Hollywood. Here I Say Mars, Disney's last big-budget, total failure, stars Taylor Kitsch. As an ex-soldier who gets whooped, is that actually a word? FWOOMPED. All the way to the Red Planet after stumbling into the wrong cave. Able to jump 10 times higher than the planet's humanoid, and of course, very hot inhabitants. John becomes a hero, saving Martian civilization in the face of an all-out war. So, sounds kind of cool. So the effects are pretty good. Of course, it was 2012, so of course everything's better. Kitsch is genuinely charming as the titular hero. Growing into a swashbuckling dude that would fight, that fit right in with the likes of Indiana Jones and Rick O'Connell. So yeah, there's that. Next, we have 27 dresses, or as they say in Spanish, 27 vestidos. Right? This is a Spanish movie. I believe it's The Devil Wears Prada, right? It says, The Gonista de El Diablo Veste de Prada. So, Devil Wears Prada is what El Diablo Veste de Prada is. My Spanish is horrible. Don't shoot me. This was released January the 9th of 2008, 2 days before my birthday, directed by Ann Fletcher, and the Rotten Tomatoes is 40%. 40%. Yeah, it looks pretty interesting, kind of like a wedding thing, I think. So anyway, we'll find out. I've never seen this before. The guy writes, I am shocked, I am appalled, I am incensed at how low this movie is rated, but if you can believe it, there was a time when the world was not too kind to the humble rom-com, excuse me. People expected a lot from Elaine Brosh McKenna, fresh from writing the sharp, acidic The Devil Wears Prada. See, I knew a little bit. And seemed perturbed that she had sunk to a simple wedding-themed romantic comedy. It's literally about a woman who's always been a bridesmaid but never the bride. And that's why she was upset. Because she had always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. Katherine Heigl and James Marsden are both in it. They have this electric chemistry that immediately takes her over. Once the two share their legendary drunken bar sing-along duet, Benny and the Jets. And that's an amazing song, Benny and the Jets. Next, we have The Purge. The Purge, yes. You've heard of The Purge. June 7th, 2013. June the 6th would have been cooler, but June the 7th, 2013. Directed by James DeMonico, and the Tomatoes rating, brace yourself, 39%. The Purge. I was going to watch that this evening, The Purge. And I just don't understand. I've heard really, really good things about this Purge. And it's been a respected series amongst horror fans. And a ripping social commentary takes place in near future America on Purge Night, a 12-hour period during which any and all crime is completely legal. Cool. And stories about a wealthy family who plan to wait out the event in their house, barricaded by a new security system. But when they save a target from a bunch of psychotic purgers, they ignite their ire, causing them to break past the security system and invade their home. Screenshots look utterly fascinating. Just absolutely amazing. It's not until the end that the Purge turns to social commentary. Dial up to 11 with a genuine twist that's as fun as it is unsettling. So, if crime were legal for one day, let's say, what would you do that you've always wanted to do? Now, we have a movie I remember coming out, just never saw. Val Kilmer starred in it. Yes, Batman Forever. Val Kilmer is Batman. Released June 16 in 1995, directed by Joel Schumacher, with an embarrassing 38% on the ratings. And this is a very good movie. I honestly don't know why on earth people would do this. But it's probably the most hated Batman movie aside from Batman versus Superman. Maybe, but it doesn't come close to the Tim Burton masterpiece that launched this unofficial series. It is, however, a lot more fun than superhero movies have become nowadays. This is one where Jim Carrey played the Riddler, prancing around Tommy Lee Jones in nearly neon Two-Face makeup. It's almost mesmerizing to watch, and Batman Forever recalls an era of Batman comics that were a lot weirder and sillier. So, to be honest with you, anything with Jim Carrey in it is worth a watch. He has done so many wonderful, amazing things. And but it's a departure. It's a definite departure from Burton's dimmer, more stylized works, but also has not one but two hit singles other than U2 and Seal. U2, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, and Seal's Kiss from a Rose. Two really great songs, although I can't stand U2. And that was 8 great movies with the terrible Rotten Tomatoes score. Yeah, and that was probably a shock to you, but may not have been, I don't know. So now we get to the Louder Staff article on the 50 best guitarists of all time. So, let's see here. We have number 50, Robert Fripp, right? And Steve Wilson has cited him as the biggest influence of all on me. And he grew up in the 80s. It was a pretty bad decade for music, but there are some interesting things developing. He was King Crimson and Robert Fripp are most fascinating of all. And Robert Fripp. He looks really cool. Very stylishly dressed. Next we have John McLaughlin. And Chris Goss, the producer and masters of reality, says, I'll never forget the day I discovered John McLaughlin's music. He was a 13-year-old kid at an outdoor show in Syracuse University in 1972. And McLaughlin was on there. And he did the sound and the visual element, especially in music, was great. The short-haired guy played his guitar like he was possessed. And it looked as though he had a strange new take on rock and roll. Feel free to look him up on YouTube. Sounds quite fascinating. Stephen Morse. Stephen Morse, pictured wearing really cool black tank with wolves on it. And the guitar he's playing, the blue one with double humbuckers. Wow. It's an amazing guitar. Steve Howe of Yes says, during the 80s, I stumbled across an instrumental album called What If by band Dixie Dregs. You know. And Steve has been voted best overall guitarist in Guitar Player magazine for 5 consecutive years. Steve didn't think that some guys like Jimmy Page was the first electric guitarist. I can't talk, you'll have to pardon me. But yeah, Dixie Dregs industry standard album in A2. And then they played a gig in A3 at my father's place in New York. So yeah, Dixie Dregs. And Steve Morse. Peter Green. Yes, Peter Green. A lot of these are before my time. So Peter Green. Rich Robinson of the Black Crowes and the Magpie Salute. Growing up in America, you couldn't help but hear the Rumors and the Fleetwood Mac albums on the radio all the time. And it was at that point he started to explore the Peter Green legacy. So he was at Fleetwood Mac, and he left long before they were done. But yeah, he's the influence to Rich Robinson of the Black Crowes. I'm a little bit crazy today. I don't know what my problem is. Robin Trower. There's a guy who got into his music with that Tobacco Sunburst Fender Stratocaster. Very nice. Paul Gilbert, Racer X and Mr. Big. His interest in Robin Trower began though hearing Day of the Eagle from Bridge of Sighs in '74, which was on the radio when he was 14. So he was already in a band, and they began to play Day of the Eagle. The same albums, to Rolling Stone. I hate that I can't talk, sorry. But yeah, very influential. Racer X and Mr. Big, two of the big shots out there. Tom Morello. This is a guy that I recognize more, except for Peter Green. Tom Morello, yeah. Very, very, very talented guy. So, Wayne Kramer of MC5 said, in the world of cutting-edge modern electric guitars, Tom Morello ranks foremost. I played with him recording sessions and dozens of live performances. And what my experiences show me is that he is among the most original and creative players in the game. The guy plays like he's possessed. Definitely. I love Tom Morello. He's very talented. Next you have Paul Gilbert. And Jim Davies of the Prodigy and Pitch Shifter. So this guy was good for Jim Davies to comment on this. But he says that as a guitarist with the Prodigy and Pitch Shifter, I guess I might be considered an unlikely fan of Paul Gilbert. Even though he says, I work in an area of music that's electronic based. But I started off as one of those guys that was into nothing but rock. When I began to learn my instrument, I was massively into Iron Maiden, Pantera, and the likes of Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. Good guitars. Dimebag Darrell, of course, Pantera. I have a feeling he's going to be on this list. He often had arguments with kids that were into Prodigy, things I considered computerized dance rubbish. So, yeah, the guy looks pretty cool. Malcolm Young. Yes, indeed, Malcolm Young. We know him, don't we? Scott Ian of Anthrax commented on this one. It said, Malcolm Young has got to be the most unsung, underrated guitar hero of all time. He was the backbone of AC/DC. Yes, he was actually, yeah. Next up, we have George Harrison. There's a name everybody recognizes as George Harrison. And he's quite a good guy, man. Elliot Easton of the Cars said, to me, George Harrison's the one. A lot of guys of my generation saw Harrison play, and that's how we learned how to be the lead guitarist in a band. To us, that's what the job looks like. That's what you do when you play lead. I was 10 when the Beatles played the Ed Sullivan Show. I was already playing guitar a little. I imagine it was quite the sight, and I've seen videos on YouTube of their performances on TV. They got a lot of guff, I believe. So did Elvis. Michael Schenker. Or Schenker, yeah, Schenker. Michael Schenker. So Mike McCready from Pearl Jam. He felt the need to weigh in on this guy. It's really hard just to pick one guitarist. It would have to be, early on, I'd say Ace Frehley. And Paul Stanley of Kiss was the reason I started playing music. I was a Cub Scout, and then I was in a band. Probably Joe Perry. I still love those guys. I always thought Michael Schenker. Yeah, I always loved Michael Schenker. There's a UFO tribute band called Flight to Mars that he plays in. And they do a charity show each year. We do shows up around Seattle. And we do most of the Strangers in the Night record. Next is Dwayne Allman. Yep. I recognize that name quite well. Charlie Starr of Blackberry Smoke. If I was putting my favorite guitar solos in order, then Dwayne Allman's on Wilson Pickett's version of Hey Jude would probably be number one. This was the moment that historians say Southern rock and roll started. I tell you. I believe it too, man. He's really cool. Paul Kossoff. Kossoff. Paul Mahon of The Answer says the man for me is the late Paul Kossoff. Maybe because he showed how it was possible to play a few notes, say so much more than other guitarists would do by playing it a lot. Yeah, Paul Kossoff. I first heard him on Freeze All Right Now, which is a classic, obviously. When he was about 6, it used to be for a TV ad for Wrigley's Gum. You remember that? And he was so struck by the song that he went out and he got a copy. So it was amazing, and it's the first one he ever learned. So, Paul Kossoff. Keith Richards. Oh, that guy. The Rolling Stones, man. Steve Van Zandt, Bruce Springsteen's E Street. The British invasion of 64-66 turned us Americans on to our own rock and roll pioneers and blues players. Keith Richards, I grew up on. Richards and Brian Jones were a great combination. Next we have Billy Gibbons. It's iconic. Beard. No secret as to what band he would be in. ZZ Top, you know. So, Keith Nelson of Buck Cherry likes this guy. Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top has the tone and the taste, and his playing always has this tenacity. He's really just one of the last examples in our lifetime of someone who had a true connection to the old blues players. I think a lot's been lost. When I think about his playing, he's one of the few guys that no matter what he plays with, as soon as he starts to play, you know who it is. Yeah, what's your favorite ZZ Top song, by the way? LaGrange, Sharp Dressed Man, whatever else they put out. Let me know in the comments. You have Joe Bonamassa. Joe Bonamassa. Leslie West of Mountain. Move my camera closer. I had Joe marked out as a name to watch from an early age. My computer is charged all the way. I knew because I played with him when he was younger. Joe was 25, I think, and he appeared on the Warren Haynes song called If Heartaches Were Nickels. I'll turn up the brightness. On his debut solo album, A New Day Yesterday, in 2000, Tom Dowd and Cream Cream fame, was producing an album, invited Greg Allman and I to be on it. I sang a verse, Joe sang a verse, and Greg sang the chorus. Mick Taylor Slash from Guns N' Roses felt the need to weigh on this guy. Mick Taylor had the biggest influence on me without even knowing it. My favorite Stones records were Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers. And Sticky Fingers, those three were major to me because I was exposed to these records as a kid. When they first came out, Mick Taylor played on a couple of these records and went on for a couple more. As I got older and started playing guitar, I always gravitated to his sort of style. So, Mick Taylor, highly influential. Dave Mustaine comes in at 34. A Megadeth guitarist. Megadeth, very much so. James Monteith from Tesseract T. For me, a Mega guitarist who discovered metal in the 90s. Dave Mustaine is one of the most influential and vital players of that time. In terms of riff writing and song construction, Dave has a certain inventiveness that was very fresh, and everything was presented with a level of precision and attention to detail far greater than most metal players then. I'm getting way ahead of myself. 33, of course, James Hetfield. Metallica, and I actually saw him in a video for the Chris Cornell tribute, and he still plays very well. Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains says, in 2006, me and Sean Kinney, the drummer for Alice in Chains, got together with James Hetfield and Robert Trujillo, the Metallica bassist now since Jason Newsted departed. To do this benefit show in Los Angeles, James actually asked to sing Alice in Chains, Them Bones, and Wood. So you're right on. So we did those two songs, then we did Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. One of the coolest things I ever did in my life, he says. Pete Townshend. Yeah, it's Pete Townshend. Ace Freshley says that Pete Townshend taught him how to play rhythm guitar. Pete and Keith Richards. That's where he got his chord work from. Kirk Hammett comes in at 31. And I always did like his ESP guitars that he played. Kirk Hammett. Joe Satriani from Chickenfoot was actually the one who taught this guy. Kirk was a great student. He was very eager to learn. His fingers moved great, and he had great taste in guitar players like Michael Schenker and Uli John Roth. He was completely musical. 30 is Chuck Berry. Yes, Chuck Berry, such a talented guy. Angus Young actually said some stuff about him. He was never a caring person. He didn't care whether he was playing his tune out of tune or someone else's tune. Whenever he plays guitar, he has a big grin from ear to ear. Everyone always wanted to rave about Clapton when I was growing up. Say he's guitar genius and stuff. Even though I had a bad night, Chuck Berry was a lot better than Clapton ever will be. Those are bold words. And you would think that Clapton, but Chuck Berry, I mean, different musicians touch us in ways that we can't imagine. Steve Howe's up next at 29. Sir Richard Bishop of Sun City Girls. Rangda. Says that Steve Howe was the first guitarist I heard whose playing really challenged me. When I was 12 years old, I first heard the song Roundabout on the radio. And of course, he did what everyone did. He recorded from the radio to cassette. And then he called his friends and played it to them over the telephone. Rory Gallagher. And Jake Burns of Stiff Little Fingers says, I was 11 years old when I first saw Taste on television. A lifelong infatuation began that Christmas. I got Taste album on the boards. So I got my first guitar a couple years later. I tried to learn all of it. So I haven't managed it. It's hard to express the effect of that first sighting of Rory Gallagher, except to say I suddenly knew what I wanted to do with my life. 27, Zakk Wylde. Yep, Zakk Wylde. Very talented guy. Bumblefoot says, I first became aware of Zakk in '86 when he was with the New Jersey band called Zyrus. I guess that's what it is, Z-Y-R-I-S. Next thing I knew, he was playing with Ozzy, and I thought, whoa, good choice. Zakk was a huge Randy Rhoads fan, or is a huge Randy Rhoads fan. And he was happy that Ozzy picked Zakk for the gig. 26, Frank Zappa. Another guitar great. The Weasel Zappa. I was never intimidated by my father's technique. I think most guitar players are just excited to see somebody do something they didn't think was possible. We'd sit and play together what Frank was doing, but what Frank was doing musical. I couldn't grasp it at a young age. It was too sophisticated for me. He showed me inversions of chords and composition techniques, moving triads around the neck and stuff like that. It sounded neat, but I didn't understand what was happening musically. Mr. Malmsteen. Yes, Mr. Malmsteen. Guy Malmsteen. Dawkins, George Lynch. I'd have to say that growing up as a guitar player in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s, every little micro evolution that came along more often than not had an influence on me. Number of people I didn't appreciate is a much smaller list. When Eddie Van Halen hit the scene, and then Malmsteen hit the scene, they had a huge impact on me. And yes, I remember seeing some of his guitars, the signatures on Musician's Friend and stuff. John Petrucci. I can't pronounce half these last names. Pardon me. Herman Lee of Dragon Force, although Michael Romeo from Symphony X was one of the biggest inspirations behind my guitar playing. Dream Theater are my true prog heroes. I got into them on Images and Words. I thought all songs on that album were amazing. Mudscarred from '94's Awake is my favorite track of theirs. So yeah, sorry about the mispronunciation of all the names and stuff. I'm not doing good today, tongue-wise, you know. Number 23, we have Prince. Bill Wyman of the Dillinger Escape Plan. When I was younger, I saw the persona the media put out there, the androgynous 80s pop guy. When I saw the movie Purple Rain, you really believed that's who he was, a tormented artist at a piano, being obsessive over notes. Not because it has to be perfect in a technical standpoint, it has to be perfect from an emotional standpoint. I personally was never into Prince, but a lot of people were. Sinister Gates. Synyster Gates. Conjurer's Connor Marshall says Sinister Gates is a guitar hero to me because he changed the way I see music. Avenged Sevenfold, Metallica are the bands that got me into metal, and Sin's guitar playing is just absolutely a huge part of it. Number 21, Carlos Santana. Yeah. Dave Cousins of the Stobbs, Strawbs. His playing was and is extraordinary. I don't know how he gets that liquid guitar style, which so defined him. There is a loping, rhythmic feel of what he does, and when you combine that with his ability to solo like nobody else, You have the magic Carlos Santana. Perhaps his greatest asset is the warmth of his performances. This is what he does on record, and this clearly comes through. 20 is Angus Young. CDC. Yeah. Joe Perry of Aerosmith way down this, apart from the usual suspects. Page, Clapton, Beck, Hendrix, and Peter Green. One of my favorite guitarists is Angus Young. I first saw him when AC/DC opened up for Aerosmith in the 70s. They played about 25 dates with us, and I was just overwhelmed by his energy, his ability to do his acrobatics without missing a note. Definitely had an influence on me as much as solos. Always had a purpose. Number 19, as predicted, Dimebag Darrell. Pantera's driving force. Sebastian Bach says, when Skid Row were going out for the Slave to the Grind tour, headlining arenas, we always wanted the heaviest, coolest band out there to support us. I was at Skid Row guitarist Scott Hill's house, and he pulls out this Pantera CD. Sticks it on. I never heard anything like it, but it was like ZZ Top meets Slayer. So Pantera were the band we took. 18, B.B. King, the late B.B. King. And Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top says that his favorite album by B.B. King is Live at the Rio, recorded in '64. So it remains a classic. The electricity, crackling atmosphere, plus its great sounds, recorded with a full band, horns, and a piano, and a rabid audience thrown in. Number 17, Mark Knopfler. Mark Knopfler. And Will Smith, writer of The Thick of It and Veep. Hey, guy, I'm into Dylan, Lyon Jackson, Chet Atkins, J.J. Cale, Randy Newman. Tracing his influence opened up my musical world. This was the uncoolest band for a teenager alike. It was yuppie music, but I genuinely loved them. Next we have Randy Rhoads. At number 16. Mattress and Randy, according to Frank Hannon of Tesla, has been reinvigorated by my 11-year-old son. He's been playing Mr. Crowley on Guitar Hero and got an expert level. He was a big fan of Randy in 1980 when Blizzard of Oz came out, Ozzy's record. Some friends of mine went to see them in Oakland and came back raving, saying, "Man, we saw this guitarist today, and he was better than Eddie Van Halen." Number 15, we have Gary Moore with his pink and black guitar, white pickguard. Chris Barras says Gary Moore was my hero. He is also my dad's favorite, and that fed down to me. He was the best guitarist in the world and my first introduction to the blues. Everything else came after him. 14, we have Tony Iommi. Well-deserved spot, I believe, number 14. James Hetfield from Metallica actually commented and says, one of the first things I heard when I was a kid that made me think I want to get a tennis racket and emulate playing guitar was Saturday Night's Alright for Fighting by Elton John. The riff is rock, but it's in your face for Elton John. Not that I'm his biggest fan, but made me want to play guitar. My older brothers played in bands, and there were always acoustics sitting around the house. So you hear something through an amp, you know you got something then. His favorite rhythm guy is Tony Iommi, and he admired Malcolm Young, who's back there holding it down, but Iommi is his main man. 13, Joe Satriani. Chris Impleteri. I was first introduced Joe by my record label president at Relativity Records. I was very young and had no idea who Joe was or how he played guitar. Shortly thereafter, I was exposed to his music, specifically Surfing with the Alien. It was innovative, energetic, and captivating. Number 12, we have Jeff Beck. I've also seen some of his signature guitars. Very nice. David Gilmour says, I'm sort of horribly, pathetically fanish about Jeff. Ever since High Host Over Lying came out, when I was 20-odd, I revered him and his playing. In many ways, he is just the best guitar player. He is still, after 40-something years since he came to prominence in the Yardbirds, the only person pushing forward in that way. He's never retreading old ground. He's always looking for a new challenge. 11. We have Steve Vai, A-V-A-I. Tom Morello, Rage Against the Machine, E Street Band, and Prophets of Rage. Some instrumental guitar players are lost in a Musso fog. Steve Vai is not one of them. He's an artist, one of the greats. And to me, he's in the same sort of field as a great jazz player. Reaching the top 10 at 10, Richie Blackmore. Yeah, Richie Blackmore. I can't talk today with that. Okay, Phil Colleen of Def Leppard. The first gig I ever went to see was Deep Purple during their Machine Head period. At Brixton Sundown, now known as the Academy, they played Highway Star and it blew me away. That's why I decided to start playing guitar. Number 9, we have Slash, who is really cool. Came out with a solo record that was pretty good. Duff McKagan, of course, comments on this from Guns N' Roses, saying that he's remained an innovator and high watermark for what modern rock and roll guitar playing should be and is. I've seen how he works his craft, and he is not just good by chance. The dude just flat out works hard. So of course, Duff would say something since he's supporting his bandmate. Alex Lifeson. Yes, Alex Lifeson. Dr. Stuart Clark, astronomer. Deep Purple gave me color, excitement, classical influences, and long songs that were improvisational. But I wanted longer songs to go big. Then I found Rush through Exit, stage left. This was rock, but not like I'd ever heard it. Let's see here. Number 7, Brian May. Yep. Brian May. Steve Vai says, I don't think enough is really said about the brilliance of Brian May's guitar playing. In that sense that it's overshadowed by the greatness of music itself, the Queen 2 album was one of the most pivotal moments that just nailed me to the wall. I was a little kid being a guitar player and hearing Brian. He's probably one of the top identifiable guitar players, even more so than Jeff Beck and Page and Clapton. Eyes are updated. Yes, Brian May. Definitely a definitive sound. Very nice. Next, number 6, we have Stevie Ray Vaughan, who is no longer with us. Joanne Shaw Taylor. Stevie Ray Vaughan was a gateway artist for me and for so many of my generation. Same way Clapton was for an earlier generation. The blues were slightly more commercial and easier to relate to me as a teenager, courtesy of Stevie Ray Vaughan. Number 5, we have Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton played in Cream and then later went on his own. Edward Van Halen. Clapton was it. I knew every note he played. Mammoth, me, Alex Van Halen, and a bass player we knew. We were the junior cream. Number 4, David Gilmour. It's starting to wind down. So we'll be at number 1 the end of the video. Steve Rothery of Morello. Of the players who've influenced me and whose work I love, Steve Hackett and David Gilmour stand out. And other of my all-time favorites would be Jeff Beck. Of his whole generation, Beck's the only one, for me, who's never lost a fire. You see him play now, and he's had the same passion and energy he's always had. Who's going to be number 3? Eddie Van Halen's number 3. And Richie Kotzen of Poison, Mr. Big, Winery Dogs. It's kind of embarrassing the first time I heard Eddie Van Halen was on the Beat It solo. So on the radio, and I heard him playing that solo, and I was like, man, that's unbelievable. Who is this guitar player? He asked around, this is way before Google, and found out it was Eddie Van Halen. So that's how I got into it. And number 2, we have Jimmy Page. Yes, Jimmy Page. Here's a mindless self-indulgent song called I Hate Jimmy Page. Why would you hate Jimmy Page? He was a great guitar player, you know. So Bruce Kulick, Kiss, and Grand Funk Railroad. All my really big inspirations came out of that period. Clapton, of course, Jimi Hendrix, and Jeff Beck. Of course, there's no way to have this conversation without mentioning Jimmy Page. He wasn't just a genius in the way he played. He is a genius how he recorded too. Sometimes he played a little bit crazy, a little out of the box, but he was just incredible. Number 1. Who do you think should be number 1? And it's none other than the great, the one we haven't mentioned yet, Jimi Hendrix. Joe Satriani. The first thing that really flipped me out was hearing The Wind Cries Mary on the radio. Before then, I was a drummer, and I started from watching the Stones and the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. That was what probably got me going, looking at George Harrison. But when I heard Hendrix, that was it. What makes him great is his choice of notes. There's a simple way of putting it. That's so important. What he chose to play is what we chose to love. But he also had some other curious qualities. Whenever I listen to him, it sounds like he just learned how to play, but he went from 0 right to the top. So, who do you think should have been on the list that was on the list? Who do you think should not have been on the list that was on the list? To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know. I have my own opinions. I just won't say them here. It's kind of unpopular, I guess. As promised, the pages that you want to check out on Facebook, of course, Clint, Lutteringer-Author and film writer. That's me. Check that one out. You also want to check out Azrail, Cain, Capeta, and Salem Grey, Grey. Check out the Encyclopedia of Hell-Volume 1, Bloodlust, Salem Grey's Straight Jacket Cafe, Dr. Slaughter, In Memoriam, The Other Side, Hung Out to Die, Profiles of Love, Mena and Harper, The Greatest Christmas Ever. And of course, I got ordained by Universal Life Church. So Reverend Clint Lutteringer's on there. I know this video was a little long. Let's check out 666 Shock Avenue. That's a great one. As a matter of fact, great material coming on all of those. Sure, check out all these, and it's just going to be a really great, great thing all around. I need likes. I also need subscribers, so subscribe and spread the word, share the channel, share the videos. I don't care, just get me out there. You want to donate to my Patreon, Adventurous Insanity. Email realmofnightmares@mail.com. And that's it. Video's over an hour long. I apologize for that. But I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you love. Let me know what you hated. Let me know what you want to see in the future. Bye.